Hello, everyone, and hello to everyone of the members of the Unapologetic Tribe. I'd like to tell you guys and greet you guys a happy new year. Happy 2021. This is our first Unapologetic Conversations, and I'm excited with our guest for today. Let's kickstart the year with a very, very powerful guest. So for today, we're going to be talking a lot about learning and how learning is supposed to make a difference in people's lives in 2021. Now, our guest is a very good friend of mine. He is a business coach. He's a business coach. We've collaborated on so many things together. He is an international business coach. He's the founder and lead coach of Success Academy. He's the founder for Design for Success. These are programs that he runs in the Philippines and internationally to help people pivot in the new economy. So it's my honor and my pleasure right now to introduce my good friend, Mr. Mack Comandante. Let's give him a warm round of applause, everyone. Okay, so welcome tonight, Mack. So thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, Francis. Thank you for having me here. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to those of you who are watching all the way to the US. And good morning to those of you who are in Asia or whatever the case may be for you. Hi, my name is Mack Comandante, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Francis.
And we are very happy to have you here today. So to all of our viewers right now, as we're going through the show, feel free to ask any question you want, okay? So let's get this conversation started, right? So Mack, we just emerged from a horrible 2020, right? It was a very challenging year for everyone, right? But there was one thing I did notice. I did notice that this was also a year of evolution for a lot of people and a lot of businesses. And many of my friends actually thrived much, much more during 2020 than they did the previous years before. So I wanted to just find out from you, in your opinion, as a person who's such an advocate of learning, what do you think made the difference between a person who just lived 2020 trying to survive and a person who thrived during the last year?
Yeah, thanks, Francis. Yeah, indeed, 2020 was quite difficult for all of us, okay, with regard to challenges in health, challenges in what the lockdowns has actually done for us. And now, what I like about times of crisis is that while it may sound as a cliche that it actually creates opportunities, it is also really the truth. It creates a lot of opportunities. And you see, when crisis happens, and I've learned this from my mentor, Blair Singer, that what crisis does for us is that it actually shows us gaps. Okay, this could be a gap in terms of mindset. It could be a gap in terms of skill set, or it could be a gap in terms of systems in your businesses. Now, whatever that gap is simply something that has been there already for the longest time and is just waiting to happen. What a crisis does is that it accelerates that gap. Okay, and it allows you to have a view of what that gap is. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs suddenly found themselves in a situation where they couldn't cope based on the new demands of their customers, or it could be that their customers before pandemic are not anymore their customers when the pandemic happened. Okay, because of the shift and the changes in consumer behavior and the change as well, and the flow of money. So that is why those entrepreneurs were able to immediately capture that gap, took on that opportunity to pivot to whatever is what we call now the new way of doing business.
The new way of doing
business. Yeah, so the major difference for me to those people who are able to thrive in 2020 versus those who remain at lackluster performance or whose businesses actually suffered is that those entrepreneurs, those people who thrive, they are able to pivot by first understanding and being aware of what those gaps are. That's the first one. Second, they took the opportunity to actually address that gap. And number three, also help other people address that gap or address their own gaps. Okay? So as you help yourself, you also help as many people as possible. So as what T. Harv Eker said, that if you want to be rich, all you have to do is solve a lot of problem, okay, and help as many people as possible. Then you become rich. Okay. So there you go.
So people who thrived in the last year, this very, very difficult and challenging year, what made the difference was there was a conscious decision to look for a gap. And
that's true.
I love what you mentioned, because I think for many of us, the instinct is to shy away from a gap because the gap represents a problem, right? And for me, there's a certain type of mindset that just rejects the idea. I don't want to deal with a problem. But I think that the people who are brave enough to open their eyes, to acknowledge a problem and to try to figure out a way to deal with it, these are the people who make it big. Now, the reality, though, Mac, is that whenever we're faced with a problem, the truth is we're more often than not, we're not equipped to know how to solve that particular problem. So what do you advise to people who are in this precipice when they're facing a big gap in their lives? There's a problem in front of them and they have no idea how on earth to fix it.
Yeah, first and foremost is that when we notice that something is not working, then that is a very good symptom that there's actually a gap. Okay, again, it could be a gap in mindset and it could be a gap in skill set. So think about this, Francis, which is easier to address? Is it the skill set or the mindset? Okay, what I believe is that it's the gap in skill set. Okay, it is not that difficult. We're in a time when re-educating ourselves is not anymore that difficult. It's not anymore that expensive. There's so much knowledge that is available out there. All you have to do is actually Google it. Okay, go to YouTube, go to Google, and so on. Go to Facebook. Okay, and actually Google whatever it is that you're looking for. The best part is that when you address the skills gap, it also addresses the mindset gap.
Oh.
So say, for example, when the pandemic happened, a lot of people don't know how to do this, like what you're doing right now. How do I communicate online? What would be the tools that I would use? How do you use StreamYard? So as you address that skills gap, say, for example, you search how to use StreamYard. Okay, so and then you address that skills. The moment you handle it, you also become more confident in showing up. So therefore, it addresses the mindset gap. Okay, so simply put, what you have to do is that if you notice that you are in this pickle, for example, okay, so simply put, my formula there is first to understand that it's there, accept that you need to change, okay, or you need to address that gap. And number 3 is to actually help yourself. Okay, help yourself, re-educate yourself, and don't wait for others to reach out for you. That's the first step. The second step is that as you're helping yourself, help as many people as possible.
Oh, okay.
That's the second step. Okay, meaning to say you become a student of your own craft. Because what I believe in is that to accelerate learning, the moment you try to teach what you've actually learned, it then compels you to learn it much better. Because you now put yourself in a space that you now become accountable to the learning of others. So in that sense, the learning curve becomes much faster. Okay, so there you go.
So here's a very simple question. You know, here in Unapologetic Conversations, we love practical stuff, right? So my question is, right, for a person who wants to learn a new skill and is unaware of how to learn that new skill, what could be the first step this person can do?
Yeah, one of the things that I advocate is that join or create learning communities.
Oh, okay.
So say, for example, if you want to learn a new skill, say, for example, I want to learn how to bake. Okay. I am sure there is a group out there that goes together and actually, try to learn together as a community, as a team, as a group on how to bake. Okay, go ahead, go to Facebook, for instance, okay, and look for communities about baking. Okay, so if you want to learn whatever that skill is, whether it's about baking, riding a bike, flying a kite, is it about public speaking? Is it about starting your own business or growing your business at an exponential rate? There is a group for all sorts. Okay, so but the key there is to be in a group, and Dean Graziosi says this best, that be in a group that's grounded or built on a culture of progress, of support, and of self-education. Okay, that's the kind of learning community that you would like to be in.
So it's progress, support, and what was the third one?
Progress, support, and self-education.
And self-education. I love this idea that we don't have to juke it out alone, right? And for me, that's one of the things that got me through this pandemic. The idea that I did find the learning community. You are one of my learning communities. Your community was one of the learning communities I was a part of. And I'm very grateful for that. Because the reality is that every time we're faced with something new, it can get very overwhelming. Like there's a ton of things that we need to learn, and we need to learn it as quickly as possible. I think there's a sense of comfort in knowing that there are other people who are in the same journey like you. People who are maybe just as ignorant as you are right now, but you're striving to learn new things. And I think that's a mindset. I think that we need to be able to embrace the humility to accept that at that moment we're ignorant. We don't know everything. At that, when we're starting out to learn something new, we're gonna suck at the beginning, right? We're gonna suck at it, suck badly at it. And you know, you and I, we've done a lot of webinars, we've done a lot of digital talks, and I remember, I don't know if this happened to you as well. I remember during my first digital talk, it was, oh my gosh, it was like pure chaos. Like the video was cutting out. I was delayed in inputting my slides. My slides weren't responding. I didn't know how to engage with an audience on the screen. But it's when I acknowledge that, you know what? You don't know shit about this. You got to ask and learn how to make this happen. And that's when I found people who helped me learn these things like you. So that for me is a very, very powerful thing. So I want to talk a little bit about this idea of a learning community. What is the benefit, though, of joining a learning community? And why would you encourage somebody to join one, to look for one?
You're right. So before I answer that one, Franz, let me ask those people who are watching this right now, or if you're watching this and replay, here's what I want you to do. Go ahead, type it in the comment section. What is one skill that you need to learn this 2021? That when you learn it, that when you become an expert of it, it's going to help you grow. It's going to help you become more successful. Go ahead, type it in the chat box. Okay. And to answer your question, Franz, in relation to learning communities, what's the advantage? What's the benefit? There are several advantages there because you see, learning communities provide a space and a structure for people to align themselves to a shared goal. Okay. So watch this. First is that it's a space. What is this kind of space? It's a space that's built around culture of support. Okay. People are journeying together with you. It's a space where it is safe. You are not afraid to speak your mind in fear of retribution or in fear of shaming and so on. Why? Because the context of that community is that it is there to support each other. That's the kind of structure. This part of the structure could be when would be the regularity of meetings, for example, like what you're doing here, the Unapologetic Conversations. How regular would this be? When are people expected to show up in that community? And more importantly, there is a shared goal. Okay. And I'm going to talk about the shared goal more of as a mistake, where a lot of people try to create groups and the goal of the group is not very clear, meaning to say they would like to serve as many people as possible. No, that's not a problem. But if you're doing it for business, meaning to say you're not narrowing your niche down yet. Okay. So more effective communities have a very clear shared goal. Okay, so say, for example, again, it could be about the skills that you're trying to learn this 2021. So what could be that skill? How to build learning communities, for example, that's a skill. Okay, so what you can do, find a group that's building communities. Okay, so there you go. The other benefit is that learning communities or effective communities are actually both aspirational as well as practical. What does that mean? It sets the tone for the brightness of the future for you. You know the destination. You know what you become if you are able to harness the power of the community or the brilliance of the community. Okay, so there you go. It's aspirational. The question that you would like to ask yourself would be, what would you like to become? Okay, and to those of you who are watching right now, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you, imagine that it's already December of 2021, you're more successful and so on. How does that look like for you? Type it in the chat box.
We do have a comment right now from Marvin. He said that the skill that he wants to acquire for 2021 is to upgrade his interviewing skills for live sessions. Yeah.
Well, Marvin, there you go.
Marvin Agustin, but not the actor Marvin Agustin.
I thought so. Marvin, if you want to learn how to upgrade your interviewing skills and live session, you have here a very good resource, the Francis Miranda. Go ahead and reach out to him. If you notice, very good interviewer, very good host at the same time. If you need help as well, later on, we're going to post the link for you if you want to join us in Success Academy. Okay, because in Success Academy, that's where we help people upgrade their own skills. Okay, and one thing that you can learn here, Francis, or Marvin, is that 3 things. One is that try to learn based on observing how Francis is actually doing this. Okay, so the first one is learn. The second one is by observing. You see, a lot of people are looking, but they're not observing. And the third one is actually apply. Apply everything like how Francis is actually doing it to the dot. What I mean by that is that what you'd be able to see when you're actually observing properly is that you'd be able to deconstruct for yourself the system that Francis is actually using so that he becomes great at what he's doing. In this case, it's about interviewing, hosting people live. Okay, there you go. Thank you, Marvin.
It's perfect that Marvin was the one who asked the question because, Marvin is one of the persons I'm actually mentoring on building his personal brand with his wife. And they're parenting experts. So there's a particular type of parenting that they want to focus on. So they're starting to build their own community, which is called the Turo Learning Communities, from the Tagalog word Turo, which means to teach, right? So as they're starting out their journey, and many of the viewers here in Unapologetic are people who are also trying to build their own tribes, build their own brands, trying to figure out how they're going to help other people, what the platforms they're going to do to help other people. I'm sure a lot of them are actually interested in setting up their own learning community as well. So my question for you now, Mac, is what's the first step that you're going to tell them if they want to set up their learning community?
Yeah. Okay. Good question. So first step, when you want to set up learning community. So by now, I would assume that all of you who's watching this, have already have a sense of understanding of why it is important to build learning communities. Okay. Or maybe let me touch on a bit on that one, Franz. Okay. So let's talk about this from the context of business. Okay. Now, what I believe is that one way to scale up rapidly is by, number one, being in the stage like what you're doing right now. Okay, it's a digital stage. The second one is by having communities. Okay, because studies show that before a person actually buys from you, okay, 99% of the people who's watching you would be it takes them about, or it's gonna take you about 8 touch points. What does that mean? You have to build relationship with your audience so that they would be willing to give you their trust, and in the process would actually buy you or buy your product or service or buy your company. Okay, it takes about, on the average, 8 touch points. Okay, so you can use email marketing, SMS, what have you. Okay, now one way to also complement that is by having a learning community, because by doing that, then you can continuously build relationship with them. You can continuously add value for them. So in context, a learning community actually helps its participants, it helps its members address the skills gap, or it also addresses the mindset gap. It serves as that bridge by helping them re-educate themselves. Okay, so therefore, the first step is that you have to identify what is the problem that you're trying to solve. What is that gap that you're trying to address? Okay, so meaning to say, for example, on Marvin's question, the gap could be, how to. So the question is how to do live interviews, for example. Okay, so what if, Marvin, watch this. What if I tell you that I have a community that actually helps you become a better speaker. It helps you become a more engaging host. It helps you build trust instantly from the first word that you actually speak when you go online. And number 4, it allows you to connect with the person that you're interviewing as well as with your audience from the beginning of your show up to the end. Would you be interested to join that community? Oh, by the way, that community is for free. Okay, so would you be interested with that? Again, it's very clear. What is the gap that I'm trying to address? I'm trying to help people. Now, the second part of this is about finding the people that you would like to help. Okay, so in this case, it could be a group of people who would like to become better hosts, better interviewers, better speakers. Is that helpful? If that's helpful for those of you who's watching this, type helpful in the chat box as well, so that we would know if our conversations are helpful. Was that helpful for you, friends?
Yes, very much so. In fact, Marvin said it was helpful for him. Yes, is what he said. Okay. So, I think I love these ideas, Mac. I think one of the biggest problems I encounter whenever I help and mentor and coach people about this idea of building their own community is narrowing down that focus. I think the focusing of the message, the purpose of the community is, I think, the biggest challenge for people, because let's face it, people are gifted. There's so many things we can help other people in, and it's so easy to just simply say, oh, I want to help in everything that I could possibly do. But what would be a tip that you can give to people, a very concrete tip that they can do today that can help them crystallize in their mind that particular niche that they're called to, that particular niche problem that they're called to solve?
I'm going to answer that in two ways. First and foremost, in terms of finding your niche. And in relation to finding your niche, I've learned this from my mentor, one of the best business coaches in the UK, Mack Comandante. Okay, Mack, if you're watching this is for you. So this is me honoring my mentors, friends. 3 E's. Okay, write it down. 3 E's. Okay.
3 E's.
First is that, what is your expertise? What are you good at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so meaning to say, you're helping people because you know that you can help them because you have some sort of expertise, whatever that expertise is. You see, a lot of people make the mistake whereby they try to create a community coming from the context or the concept of actually trying to sell to the community. Okay, so meaning to say, if you want to build a community, the mindset should be stop selling. Now, eventually, you're going to sell in that community, okay? Because then that is now how you would be able to capture back the value, okay? But in the building phase, your goal is not to sell. Your goal is to help. Your goal is to serve. How are you going to do this? First, find the first E, which is your expertise. So that in that way, you don't end up becoming a false guru, okay? The second E, it would be, what is your experience? What is your experience? And when we talk about experience, think about your life experiences, okay? This could be a difficult experience, or this could be an experience of triumph, whatever that experience is. You see, when we go back to our own experiences, behind this is actually a lesson. That experience is teaching us something. Now, it is now your role, okay, to bring that lesson to as many people as possible, to the people that you want to help, so that they don't make the same mistake that you made. And that's how you help others. So now you combine your expertise and your experience. The third E is about excitement. Okay, type excitement as well. What does that mean? Think about the group of people that excites you the most, that whatever happens, this is the kind of people that you would like to help. I'll give you an example. In the Philippines, or actually this is now bigger than the Philippines or beyond the Philippines, is that we've created a scale-up community where in less than 3 months, we've grown the membership to more than 5,000 people. Why? Because that community, it is very specific as to the kind of people that we want to help. We want to help financial advisors. If you're not a financial advisor, we boot you out, or we don't even accept you in the community. It is very specific to that niche. Why? It's because that in my journey, at one point in my life, for about 10 years or so, I was a financial advisor. And here in the Philippines, I'm very much involved in the financial advisory business, having investments in several general agencies that is now housing thousands of financial advisors in the country. So these are the kind of people that I want to help, because I know that financial advisors, if there is one thing that's common among them, is that they have the heart of giving. They also want to help as many people as possible through the policies that they are actually selling. Okay, so 3 E's. Look for your experience, look for expertise, as well as what is that group that excites you. So when you find those 3 E's, the second component here would be, you see, you can find this. If you're going to Google, okay, go ahead and niche down. The common answer in terms of niching is that you first address the demographic profile. You niche down based on the age, the location, and so on. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I figured out over the long run, as I went deeper into this study, is that the more effective way to niche, and I've learned this from Seth Godin, is by understanding what do the people that you would like to help, what would they want to become? Okay, so say for example, for Marvin here, who is a parenting coach.
Yes.
Marvin, I want you to ask the parents that you would like to help, what would they like to become as a parent? Okay, versus thinking about your niche. Okay, I want to help parents are about 30 to 40 years old, and they have a certain demographic, a certain income bracket, and so on. Those factors are important, but equally and more effective. And to summarize all of this, whatever their age may be, they have a goal. They want to become something. Okay. So what is that? What would they like to become? Okay, good. If you have more questions, type it in the chat box so that we'll be able to address this.
Yes. So, well, as much as we'd love to spend a lot of time, we only have 5 minutes left. The last question I wanted to ask you guys, I wanted to ask you though, Mack, is if I were to ask you what are the top 3 mindsets that people should embrace as we're entering 2021, what do you think the top 3 mindsets are?
For me, there is no generic answer to that one, Franz. You see, as I've coached thousands of people, not only here in the Philippines, but in different parts of the world, when I would go for coaching, okay, we would do this on a very individual level. Now, whether this is one-to-one or one-to-many or a group coaching, the individual mindset still come to play. And I believe that is where the magic happens. Okay, so first and foremost, it's about a mindset of change.
Mindset of change.
It's a mindset of change. So, meaning to say that wherever you may be today, just to those of you who are watching, okay, how many of you agree with me that you have more potential in you than what you currently are actually exhibiting based on your actions? Okay, so if you agree to that, type potential in the chat box. And I want you to think about that, because the only way to reach that potential or to get closer to that potential, okay, is actually by changing. Okay, because with the current state right now, whoever you are today, okay, you are performing based on the current skill set and the current mindset. To bring yourself to the next level, whether that potential is about business, that potential is in your relationship, that potential is in your health, that requires a change of mindset. Okay? And so in that changed mindset, how would you get there? Carol Dweck talks about this, which is the growth mindset. I'm not going to go deeper into that, but go ahead and Google this. It's also having that growth mindset. And the third component there is about putting yourself in a state where you are feeling yourself that you're getting stretched. Okay? And I need to say, you're allowing yourself you're using pressure. What is that pressure? It's that pressure to perform, whether that pressure comes from creating more income, creating more wealth, or becoming better as a human being. Whatever that pressure is for you, use that pressure to work to your advantage, whereby you feel a sense of stretch.
Sense of stretch.
Yes. Okay. It's a stretch where, think about a rubber band, stretching a rubber band. Okay. You pull it. If there is too much tension, if there is too much strain, that rubber band is going to break. You don't want that. But given the right amount of stretch and you let go of one end, the rubber band is going to flip towards the other end. Okay. It gains momentum. It creates energy. Okay. And that's where you would like to put yourself in. Create that creative tension. Engineer your life so that you are in that state. Okay, so think about this. An example would be, I've been facilitating goal setting and strategy planning sessions. Okay, so think about an income goal that you would like to achieve for this year. Okay, those of you who are watching, think about that income goal, whatever that is, just write that down in your notes. Okay, now notice, is that income goal actually possible for you? Do you feel the sense of stretch? Now, do not create an income goal whereby you become delusional, where it's already impossible.
Yes.
Okay, because a lot of people also make that mistake. Okay, last year I've made, let's say, $1 million. Okay, and next year I'm going to make 100 million. Okay, that's not just a stretch. It might sound delusional to a lot of people. So don't put yourself up to frustration. So, but rather create a goal that you know, okay, this is a stretch. This scares me. I know that I need to put in more work, put in more effort. I have to be in the right community, get the right kind of support. And when that happens, I'd be able to achieve that. That's the kind of stretch that you would like to put yourself in. Okay. So 3 mindsets. Okay. Although it's not generic, again, it's a mindset of change. Once you understand that you need to change, where would you like to bring yourself to? Then go ahead and apply the growth mindset from Carol Dweck. Read on that if you're not familiar with it. And number 3, it's a mindset of creative stretch. Okay. And okay, let me add one more. Okay. Fourth mindset will be the mindset of leverage.
Mindset of leverage.
Mindset of leverage, meaning to say, in the world today, and being an exponential trainer and coach, okay, I've been helping organizations and companies remove, okay, the constraints to their business so that they can grow exponentially. Okay. And the only way to do that, if you want to grow exponentially, you got to have some sort of leverage for that. What is that leverage? That leverage is on technology. Okay, because we're approaching, or we are in the cusp of a transition from the information age, okay, to now the stage of convergence of intelligence.
Convergence of intelligence.
Okay, so watch this. For example, think about Tesla. Why is it that the market cap of Tesla today is much bigger than all the automobile manufacturers and companies combined? Why is that? Think about the car Tesla. Is that really a car? But since it's because it continues to update itself, is it a computer on wheels? But the way it is updating itself is that it has apps. Are you really now riding an app?
Yes.
On wheels? So it's not anymore a car. Okay, so all of these shifts are happening, and to make that vehicle possible, it's a convergence of different technologies. So you would have AI, 3D printing, and so on and so forth. Okay, it's not anymore just one technology driving it. So think about the world today. What are these technologies that you can use so that you can leverage it in your own business? Okay, so there. So those are the four mindsets that I would suggest.
And I love it because I think we are living in such exciting times where there's simply an overabundance of opportunity. But again, these opportunities remain behind locked doors unless we ourselves are brave enough to really try to learn how to break those doors down. I love when you mentioned the word Google earlier, that you Google this, right? I always tell people that one of the important mindsets is the mindset to Google, because I think in today's world, you have no excuse to be ignorant. I mean, before, let's face it, when I was younger, and maybe you felt this yourself, right? If we needed to do research, we had to go to a library, we had to open a card catalog, we had to go through index cards, look for a book, look for a certain piece of information in the book, photocopy that book, and highlight it. That's how we did research. But today, my gosh, you want to learn how to create a ClickFunnels automation campaign, you can Google it. There's absolutely no excuse not to do that. But again, I guess the thing that prevents people is precisely this lack of learning mindset. And I love how we spoke about this so eloquently. So before we end, Mack, in case we have viewers out there who want to follow you, who want to connect with you, how can they do that?
So given the inspiration right now of this conversation, one of the groups that we're curating, okay, this is beyond the scale-up community. Franz, do you have the link for this one?
No, I don't. Sorry. What? If you can type it for me, I type it in. Or
yeah, so
the option is if you can type the link in the chat box, so that when they see it on replay, they can also go to it. They can click on it already.
Okay, just here in the chat.
Yes.
StreamYard.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, there you go.
There.
Cool. Okay, so what is that link? That is that link to invite all of you to join the Community and Success Academy. What we're going to be doing there is that we're doing it differently this year. I want to be more specific, Franz, in terms of what are the skill set that people want to learn. So I'm going to be doing that survey right there in that community. And I want to make sure that over the course of 2021, in that group, my goal is to just add massive value. Okay, so say, for example, you want to learn, for example, how to become a better host. So my promise to all of you is that once we run that survey within a week or so, or within the next several months, I'm going to find someone, if not me, who's going to help you learn that skill. Okay, and that is Success Academy for you. Okay, the link is there in the chat box. So thank you very much, Francis. This is amazing. Okay, thank you for having me here.
Thank you for ushering a fantastic new year for us. Before we end today, I'd like to invite those of you who have not joined the group and are watching it on the other channels, join the Unapologetics group on Facebook. On Instagram, you can follow me at Francis Mir, and on LinkedIn on Francis Miranda. So on behalf of the team here in Team Unapologetic, Mack Comandante, thank you very much for your time. And to everyone, we hope you learned a lot. Go find the learning community. Go make your own learning community, because when we commit ourselves to helping other people, that's how we make the world a much better place. So on behalf of everyone here in Unapologetic, as always, we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks, friends. Bye-bye, everyone.